Niki Lauda's fiery crash on August 1, 1976, at the Nürburgring Nordschleife remains one of Formula One's darkest moments. The incident not only threatened the life of the reigning world champion, but also became a catalyst for sweeping safety reforms that reshaped the sport. To fully understand the profound impact of this event, it is essential to delve into how the crash happened, its aftermath, and the revolutionary changes it inspired in Formula One. How the accident happened. The 1976 German Grand Prix at the Nürburgring Nordschleife was fraught with peril even before the first lap. The circuit itself was notoriously dangerous, spanning over 14 miles with 170 challenging corners, unpredictable elevation changes, and minimal safety features. The addition of unfavorable weather conditions that day made the situation even more precarious. A rainstorm had left the track damp at the start of the race, forcing all drivers to fit wet weather tires for better grip. However, as the laps progressed, the sun broke through the clouds and portions of the track began to dry rapidly. Drivers faced a critical decision: whether to continue on wet tires, which would degrade on the drying asphalt, or switch to slicks for better performance on the dry sections. Niki Lauda, always known for his strategic thinking, opted to pit after the first lap to switch to dry slick tires, hoping to gain an advantage as the track conditions improved. Other drivers, including his championship rival James Hunt, followed suit. While the strategy was sound, the Nürburgring's infamous complexity created a unique challenge. Parts of the circuit were still damp, and the slick tires, designed exclusively for dry surfaces, provided little to no grip on wet patches. On the second lap, Lauda approached the Bergwerk corner, one of the circuit's most demanding sections. As he navigated the high-speed bend, his rear tires lost traction on a damp section of the track. The Ferrari spun uncontrollably, veered off the road, and collided with an embankment. The impact was catastrophic. The car rebounded onto the circuit, striking barriers and bursting into flames as its ruptured fuel tank ignited. Lauda was trapped inside the burning wreckage, unconscious and exposed to the toxic fumes and searing heat. Several drivers, including Guy Edwards, Harold Ertl, Brett Lunger, and Arturo Mazzario, stopped their cars to assist. While Edwards swerved to avoid Lauda's wrecked Ferrari, Mazzario bravely dove into the flames to pull Lauda from the cockpit. By the time Lauda was rescued, he had suffered severe burns to his face and scalp, and his lungs were damaged from inhaling toxic fumes. This harrowing crash exposed critical shortcomings in Formula One's approach to safety and medical response, leading to immediate changes in the sport. Lauda's medical report. Lauda's injuries were devastating. He suffered third-degree burns to his head and face, losing much of his right ear and eyelids, along with severe damage to his scalp. However, the most life-threatening injuries were internal. The toxic fumes he inhaled during the fire caused significant damage to his lungs and blood, leaving him in critical condition. At the hospital, Lauda received emergency treatment to stabilize his condition. Doctors performed surgeries to remove damaged tissue and maintain his airway, but his prospects seemed grim. A priest was even called to administer last rites. Yet Lauda's resilience and determination prevailed. Against all odds, he began recovering within days, and, in an astonishing display of courage and strength, returned to racing just 42 days later at the Italian Grand Prix. This extraordinary recovery brought global attention to Lauda's indomitable spirit and highlighted the sport's urgent need for reforms. The severity of his injuries underscored the inadequacies in car construction, track safety, and medical response protocols, leading to transformative changes. How the Niki Lauda crash changed Formula One forever. First, track safety reforms, the Nürburgring, a hazardous circuit. Even before Lauda's crash, the Nürburgring Nordschleife was criticized for its inherent dangers. Its length, uneven surface, and lack of runoff areas left drivers with little margin for error. The circuit's size also made it nearly impossible for medical teams to respond quickly to accidents. After Lauda's crash, the Nürburgring was deemed unfit for modern Formula One racing. The German Grand Prix was moved to the shorter and safer Hockenheimring in 1977. This marked a turning point for track safety standards across Formula One. Key circuit safety changes. 1. Runoff areas. Tracks were redesigned to include extensive runoff zones, particularly at high-speed corners. These zones allowed cars to decelerate safely before reaching barriers, reducing the impact forces in accidents. 2. Barriers and fencing. Armco barriers became the standard for F1 circuits, providing a deformable yet sturdy structure to absorb crash forces. Debris fencing was also introduced to protect spectators and marshals from flying parts. 3. Marshal and medical access. Improved infrastructure ensured faster access for marshals and medical teams. Circuits were required to have clearly defined emergency paths and medical helicopters on standby for rapid evacuation. The overhaul of track safety requirements following Lauda's crash set a precedent that no circuit could remain on the calendar without meeting rigorous safety standards. 2. Car safety innovations. Fuel system overhaul. One of the most immediate concerns highlighted by Lauda's crash was the vulnerability of fuel systems. His Ferrari's fuel tank ruptured on impact, igniting the fire that engulfed the car. To address this, the following car safety innovations were implemented. Flexible fuel bladders. Traditional rigid fuel tanks were replaced with puncture-resistant bladders, significantly reducing the risk of fuel leakage during crashes. Safer tank placement. Fuel tanks were relocated within reinforced sections of the chassis, away from impact-prone areas. Survival cells and cockpit design. The concept of a survival cell became central to car design. This rigid, reinforced structure, made from advanced materials like carbon fiber, was designed to protect the driver from impact forces. Quick-release steering wheels. Lauda's crash highlighted the importance of rapid driver egress. The introduction of quick-release steering wheels allowed drivers to remove the wheel and exit the cockpit within seconds. Side impact protection. Reinforced side panels were added to cars to absorb the energy of side-on collisions, a common hazard in high-speed racing. These innovations ensured that cars were better equipped to protect drivers in crashes, dramatically improving survival rates. 3. Driver protection and equipment. Fireproof clothing standards. Lauda's fire-related injuries prompted an overhaul of driver safety gear. Drivers were now required to wear fireproof suits, gloves, and balaclavas made from materials like Nomex, capable of withstanding temperatures of up to 800 degrees Celsius for extended periods. Helmet design improvements. Lauda's dislodged helmet exposed vulnerabilities in helmet design. New regulations required helmets to be more impact-resistant and secure, ensuring they stayed in place during crashes. HANS device. While not introduced until decades later, the HANS, head and neck support device, can trace its origins to lessons learned during this era. This mandatory device prevents severe neck and spinal injuries by limiting head movement during crashes. The improved safety gear significantly enhanced driver protection, ensuring that future incidents would be less likely to result in life-threatening injuries. 4th, medical access and safety cars. Lauda's crash underscored the need for swift medical intervention. The FIA mandated the presence of medical helicopters at every race, ensuring injured drivers could be transported to specialized facilities quickly. The introduction of the safety car also reduced risks during accidents by controlling the speed of on-track traffic. 5. Crash testing. Mandatory crash testing for F1 cars became standard practice. These tests evaluated the integrity of survival cells, fuel systems, and other critical components under extreme conditions. 6th, barrier innovations. The introduction of TechPro and safer barriers provided superior energy absorption compared to traditional Armco barriers, reducing the severity of impacts for both drivers and vehicles. 7. Halo device. The Halo device, introduced in 2018, is perhaps the most visible legacy of Formula One's commitment to safety. This titanium structure protects drivers from flying debris and rollovers, preventing potentially fatal injuries.